I want to dive in and ask you, I know that in the field of keto dieting, there is sometimes some confusion about the difference between what a low-carb diet is versus a keto diet. Can you give us some clarity around that?
Sure. Well, in effect, they both fall under the same umbrella of low-carbohydrate diets, but I guess it just reflects the differences in the extent of how low carb it is. So a low carbohydrate diet has many different terms. So in some parts of the literature, it's less than 130 grams of carbohydrates a day. Other people would say it might be 100 or less than 50, but it's really an arbitrary definition. But when it comes to talking about what a ketogenic diet is, we actually look at human physiology. So when you burn fat in your body, one of the products that can be produced is called a ketone body. And the one that we're most interested in has a bit of a fancy name. It's called beta-hydroxybutyrate, but we'll just call it a ketone. Now, if you lower your carbohydrates far enough that your body can then enter a fat-burning mode, and that depends on lowering your insulin enough as well, then you can produce ketones, and that's what we call the state of nutritional ketosis. So somebody in nutritional ketosis would be on a ketogenic diet, and they'll also be on a low carbohydrate diet. But if you've just restricted your carbohydrates enough, maybe 130 grams a day, but you're not yet in ketosis, then we'd call that a low carbohydrate diet by itself.
So in that case, it's not a one-fits-all approach. There is a variation.
Yeah, so that's a common misconception. So people often want to know, well, what will work for my metabolism? They want to say, well, surely I can't be the same as a person down the street. Now, in saying it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, it doesn't mean that everybody can go out and consume sugar ad libitum or consume protein, or et cetera, et cetera. But it talks about the extent of carbohydrate reduction that is necessary to enter a good state of health. So for instance, somebody who's very insulin resistant, and that might be because of genetics, because you come from a particular ethnic demographic. It might be because you've had a long history of growing up eating Fruit Loops and Cheerios as a child, and you've just abused your metabolism over a long period of time. But essentially, if your metabolism is not very healthy, then to enter ketosis, you need to be very, very strict on how the carbohydrate reduction you have. But I might have a healthy athlete who's always eaten healthy and they're exercising a ton, and they might be able to have 150 grams of carbohydrates a day and still be in ketosis. So in a sense, it's almost a sliding scale. It's like where the needle points. If you're very insulin resistant, you need to be very strict carbohydrate reduction. And if you're quite healthy, as most children are, you can probably have some carbs and still be okay.
Paul, thank you so much for clarifying that point for us.
Pleasure. Thank you.